Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the CouchCast charity podcast, where today we're very lucky to be joined by another very special guest. It's Mr. Michael James Scott. Hi, Michael.
Yes. Hi. Hi there. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on, volunteering your time. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Just literally taking day by day right now.
That's what we got to do, exactly.
Yes. It's a lot in this world right now, but I am taking it day by day and making sure that I stay, you know, um, I'm trying to stay positive. I'm trying to stay active. I'm trying to do all the things.
We've got a few questions here for you. The first question is, how did you first get into theatre? What was the start of it all?
Oh my gosh, what was the start? I mean, I was always, theater was just something that, since I can't even remember, it was just like this thing that I just loved getting to do. I grew up in Orlando, Florida, and I actually started as a child actor, so more in the TV film world. And then I used to sing in church, which is live. So that was that was sort of kind of the first introduction for me in terms of that sort of like stage setting, if you will. And the stage being the pulpit, the audience being the congregation. But when I around middle school, sort of for me, as I entered into high school, I discovered musical theater and theater, like just being on stage, and it really just sort of like it married everything that I loved. I loved the feeling of it being live so much, and it basically, that's kind of where it started. I went to a performing arts high school, and my love for theater just like exploded from that little moment on, and it became this love affair that I have with the craft.
That's fantastic. So that was the start of it all. That was the root that just...
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I had always had little glimpses of like all kinds of things throughout my childhood, but I think that really kind of, I mean, I think that the spark of church really started the theater thing for me, to be honest with you. That was really kind of where it started, and this idea of singing for people and being in front of people. And I remember what it used to do to me when I heard just glorious music and voices, and so it was the beginning of that. So that, I think, for me, that sort of sparked that.
That's really cool. So did you have any kind of role models that you looked up to or kind of took inspiration from?
Yeah, I mean, so many. I mean, like I said, basically in church, still to this day, some of the most incredible singing, the most compelling speeches or sermons, if you will, were in church. And as I got older, then it sort of became this sort of thing. Of course, I was watching, all kinds of TV shows like the Mickey Mouse Club and like Kids Incorporated, and seeing things like that just sort of like made me, just was like loving that. As I got older, it became this idea of like sort of the old school, the old song and dance men and who really inspired me, like the Sammy Davis Juniors and the Fred Astaire.
All those triple threats.
Yes. And then, and then sort of more recent with like, with like Ben Vereen and Savion Glover, like those performers really, really inspired me, because it was a throwback, and I really responded to this sort of song and dance band. And so those were really inspirational people for me, just because it just sparked this thing of doing it all, and there's nothing like dancing and singing and all of it at the same time.
The whole shebang.
Exactly.
And along the way, was there anyone who kind of tried to dissuade you from it, or kind of said, don't go down this path?
I don't think. I mean, there was not any people in particular who persuaded me not to do it. I had, I always say to young artists, well, I say to young artists' parents specifically to just say yes. I
Yeah,
had parents who just said yes
that's
to basically
fantastic.
everything, and that to me is why I'm here today.
Yeah,
Truly, they just said yes. They didn't question what I wanted to do, and they were so supportive of me and what my dreams were. So I learned very early on. Um, this sort of idea of confidence and this idea of really going for what you want and really not being letting no, or if you sort of being persuaded another way. It was just
yeah.
kind of like, for me it was no kind of meant maybe. I always I always I always did that where I was like, well, you might say no, but I'm like, maybe.
Well,
um, and so that actually is something that I think for me was really, really helpful. And as I got older and just sort of like did all of the things with, you know, as we get into with rejection and of course everything that we deal with
yeah,
as actors in this business, um, I I didn't let that stop me, you know. And there's been many rejections and so forth. Even my university, I ended up going to a university that I didn't expect to go to
yeah.
because I ended up being told no from multiple universities, and I kind of love it now because I'm like, well, you're lost. Look at what you missed out on. But yeah, it just made me stronger. It made me much more determined. And when someone tells me no, it really actually makes me want to show like, well, actually,
Can do this.
I can do it. So and I don't give it up. I don't like stop.
That's fantastic because that's what it's kind of all about. You hear a lot of no's along the way, but then when you do
Hmm.
get that yes, it's the fire that has kept you going through all those no's is finally kind of being, what's the word?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's exactly right.
And it's good that your parents were so supportive as well because they easily could have said, no, no, Michael, no.
Absolutely.
How much that would have changed.
That's exactly right, and that's exactly why I say to parents, you know, to just say yes. I mean, they didn't put any of their projections of what it is that they maybe wanted. They didn't put that on me. They
Yeah,
let me be me, and so that is something that's incredibly. I feel very blessed to have had because if they had said no, like many other young artists deal with, you know, with parents just maybe just not convinced that they should be doing that kind of a thing, and they just don't allow it. That
yeah,
you know, unfortunately, it just sort of like stifles all of that. And I believe that the arts. I believe that everyone should have a course in the arts in their lifetime. I really do.
yeah,
It's been proven that is actually it's actually successful to be able to
yeah,
have, and not to say that everyone needs to be an actor or in the, you know, like in the arts, but just the discipline of it, just the creative juices that happen and the
exactly.
creative inspiration that goes through your brain and your heart and your mind and your soul is something that is extremely valuable as you get older.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what some people say. It keeps them young.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
So we're going to segue on now to more questions about your role in Aladdin, which you're
Mm,
probably most famously known for playing the Genie. So what was that experience
yes.
like?
Oh, it was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. No. Oh my gosh. Oh, I mean, it's been a dream. It's been a dream come true, and it truly. Uh, uh, I think about it, and I just can't not smile, just because
Yeah,
it's like the little boy in me that I never probably would have, I'd never even dreamt to imagine what it is that where I've gotten to go, what I've gotten to do with this iconic role.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, I mean, it's an incredibly rewarding, challenging, fulfilling, like everything in the kitchen sink. You can feel feel about this role that, and I am just so honored and so, gosh, still in disbelief that it's been in my world like this for
Yeah,
this amount of time and what I've gotten to do with it.
exactly. And I think nearly everyone grew up watching Disney, and everyone kind of
Yes,
has that attachment. This energy.
exactly.
Yeah,
I say that Aladdin is like, people say that music is like the universal language. I say that Aladdin is like the universal show,
yeah,
because it is, I've done it at this point around the world, and every audience that I've gotten to do it for and have the pleasure and the honor of being the genie for them in another country, is the exact same electrifying
yeah,
energy that I felt on Broadway, doing it, and everywhere else. So it's like this thing that there's, the entity that is Aladdin and what was created, from the 1992 animated, film to now, is unbelievable. And like you said, worldwide, like the iconic, uh, character of the genie, but just like the iconic, um,
show as a
uh,
whole.
the show.
Yeah, yeah,
Exactly. It's just so incredibly universal, and so that's been really fun to get to see and to be a part of, because it's incredible how people respond to it.
yeah,
And the people who remember, like, they're just sort of reminiscing on what they got to see from the first vision, to now new people discovering it
yeah,
and loving it and what
exactly.
it does for
Different
them. So
generation.
that's incredible to me.
Yeah, and there's that connection with it. They responded immediately because people have either grown up with it or they're bringing up their kids watching it because this is what I watched when I was a kid. And
Yeah, exactly,
multi-generational. Yeah.
exactly, exactly.
So how did you go about bringing the genie to life? How did you get into his character?
Oh my gosh. Well, so the thing about the genie that I have found, that was really tough in the beginning, is getting rid of these preconceived notions that it needed to be a certain way. There's a lot of pressure that goes with playing the role like the genie, and like this sort of pressure on your back of like, oh my gosh, I have huge shoes to fill,
Yeah,
and the expectation from the audience and everyone who's waiting for the genie to come out and entertain them, and just sort of this larger than life character. So, I think it's basically it's getting rid of all of that first, and really allowing yourself to be brought into the role. I've been very, blessed with a creative team who wanted Michael James Scott to be in the role. They
that's
wanted me.
fantastic. Yeah,
That's what
yeah,
they wanted. They gave me the permission. They gave me the freedom. They trusted me. They did all those things. And when you have that trust, and when you have that relationship with your creative team, it really just it allows you to soar.
yeah,
So I played so much. I was inspired by so many people. I think it's really, really important to be the most authentic self, your most authentic self in this
yeah.
role. And, it's very easy for the audience to know when you're not,
Oh,
because that's the kind of role it is. So you're not only, to me, the most successful, genies. To be a successful genie is that you truly have to let that guard down and be able to bring that love and that light and that laughter and that heart into the role right away,
yeah,
right away. So it requires a lot of work, on yourself as an actor, because there's a fine line between your yourself and the character. And with a role like the genie, it's really important that you bring a lot of you, and you let people see you and the reason
yeah,
why you were cast in this role, because that's what this kind of role needs and what it requires.
yeah,
So there was that, and then I was inspired, but I basically stole from like all the people I like, like all, again, like I said, all the cool cats from the past, with like, the Sammy Davis, the Fred Astaire, the Ben Vereens, and then I went, like personal, and like with my grandfather and my
yeah,
father, and who they are, just sort of like, my father is like the king of dad jokes. And when he makes a joke, it is like, it's the funniest thing in the world. It could literally not be you're like, what is that joke? But because he tickles himself and he finds it so amusing,
Yeah.
you laugh. And I love that aspect of the Genie. I just love that. So I was like, well, I'm definitely taking that in there. But then, I have Beyonce thrown in there. I have, like all of the things. There's probably some Cher. There's like, Peebo Bryson and Brian McKnight. I just like all of the like this combination of all these amazing artists who I just love, that I think at some point inhabit what the Genie, like who he is.
Yeah, and it's fantastic that they gave you that freedom to put your own spin on it. I
think.
Yeah. So did you take any inspiration from the original animated movie? I think it was Robin Williams played the Genie.
Yes, the brilliant Robin Williams. I mean, I definitely tried to not watch the movie once I knew I didn't watch the movie at all.
Yeah.
Again, like I hadn't seen it since I was little, so I didn't want to see it again. But what I wanted to make sure that the thing about what Robin Williams did is that his imprint, his DNA, if you will, the foundation that he laid as the Genie will always be there. So I didn't need to, we don't need to like dive into that or try and repeat any of that.
You just build on that. Yeah.
It's just there. This is a new version. We're just adding to the legacy of this incredible, iconic thing that is Aladdin and the Genie specifically.
Exactly. It's building on top of that and taking it levels above.
Exactly.
Putting the Michael James Scott spin on it.
Yes, that's right.
Exactly. And then we're going to move on now to and this is just a general Broadway question. What do you think it's going to be like reopening on Broadway after this whole situation with the coronavirus?
Gosh, that's a great question. I mean, it's like the $1 million question at this point. I mean, there's so much, I've been talking to so many of my friends and all of us in the business, and just like what it will feel like. I know for me personally, it almost feels, I mean, it will feel like a rebirth for sure, because it's going to be it already is a new world. And it will be a new world, a whole new world. And it will be a new way of how Broadway runs and how we go about that. I think well, it'll be historic when we do come back, which is really exciting and
kind of
overwhelming, if you will. Yes, because I feel like there will be an overwhelmingly emotional feel to be back. I already just expect that. I also am I'm so looking forward to that feeling of the orchestra starting the entr'acte, like starting the overture. I mean, because it is, that feeling will just will speak volumes in the sense that like we have finally gotten here. We have finally gotten to this place. So I expect it'll be emotional. I expect it'll be overwhelming. I expect it'll be daunting. I expect it'll be exciting. I expect it'll be scary. I expect it'll be explosive.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the great things about kind of theater in general. It's the adaptability to new circumstances. So everything will bounce back, but it will be a long haul. That's what I think.
Yeah, it will be. It's a long haul. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some time. And we have to get it right. And as our leaders in our industry right now are, constantly trying to figure out what, new information every day. We have to get it right the first time.
Exactly.
Like shutting down again could be worse for our industry. So we all are relying on our leaders who are getting all of the top information and the top protocols of what we can do to successfully open back up.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the most important thing, successfully and safely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I've got a big question for you now. This might be a hard one.
Okay.
Your proudest career moment or achievement to date?
What is my proudest moment achievement today? I think I would probably say doing so in Australia. We got to do the show for Aboriginal children,
Yeah,
and they had never ever been to a Broadway show. They had never experienced anything like it. They had never seen a person of color like in front of them up on a
yeah,
stage, and there I was, a person of color leading a show for them, and they
exactly.
were on the
Yeah,
they were in the first and second rows, and I will never forget their faces. I'll never forget the idea of them in their heads thinking, "Wow, it is
yeah,
possible."
exactly. And how
Um,
powerful that could be for them.
yeah, yeah. So that for me was a moment that was uh, really powerful and
Yeah,
something that I'm really proud of and so insanely grateful that I got to be a part of.
well, that is fantastic because that will stick with you and stick with those children.
Yes, yes, exactly, exactly.
That's fantastic. And we're going to kind of move on now to questions about lockdown and how you've been coping.
Sure.
The first question is, have you noticed any unexpected benefits of lockdown as opposed to all the negatives?
Yes, I think one of the biggest benefits has been the idea of slowing down, the idea of reconnecting to our loved ones, reconnecting to ourselves, forcing us to take a step back.
Yeah,
And I think that that is important. I think that it was obvious that the world needed a reset. And Mother Nature, the universe, Allah, Buddha, whatever you believe in, um, is saying something
yeah,
to us all. And I think that that is what's been, I think, a really positive thing is it's just the reconnecting to yourself and to your loved ones.
exactly. And you value those connections more now because before it was, oh, I can see them tomorrow, I can see them next week. But I think now we
Exactly.
value it more now.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. That's been really great, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
kind of just rediscovering those connections
Yeah.
or just
Yes,
strengthening them.
exactly. It's a rediscover. I love that.
Exactly. So how have you been keeping yourself ticking over? How have you been keeping sane during the whole thing?
Gosh, I mean, I Zoom and Skype and House Party, all those are my friends, which is, crazy now. The world is turned to everything virtually
Yeah.
at this point. And so that's been quite an interesting adjustment for us all. But, I've done a lot of cooking. I've actually been really busy with, you know, wonderful things like this and
Yeah.
throughout my this whole time like I'm it's kind of crazy how you become really busy when you're technically not working, so it's like
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
working now in a very different way than I was before, teaching things like I mean I do master classes on like virtually. I do
Yeah.
private coachings on virtually. I do, there's interviews a lot and all kinds of like performances. It's kind of unbelievable. I'm doing I've been guest hosting a show on Broadway.com,
Yeah.
which has been really wonderful. And we are we have a panel of people of color on Broadway and discussing that. And
Yeah.
that's been wonderful on a platform like Broadway.com for them to basically let me
Broadcast
take
to so many
over.
people. Yeah. That's
Yeah,
fantastic. Yeah.
it's just been so fulfilling in such a really great way.
Yeah. And I've said this a few times on episodes, but I think it's more physical distancing than social distancing because you can still keep
Yes,
in touch with so many different people.
yes, exactly. That's
And
exactly right.
some people you might see more now than you did before lockdown.
Absolutely.
So the last question we have for you today is,
Hmm.
what advice would you have for anyone who out there who might be struggling with lockdown, with either mental health or other things?
I think for lockdown specifically, I think it is important to breathe through the uncomfortableness. I think it's okay to be uncomfortable and to be, some people are handle it obviously a lot better than others, or they just are able to. Some people are sort of naturally prone to a more quieter kind of, not me, like I'm not that way at all. So it's a
Yeah,
very
yeah.
different thing. But I think if you are, I think the advice I would say is that what you are feeling in the moments are okay, and they are valid. Obviously, if it becomes to a place that is, of a sort of a very serious detrimental place, which I think per individuals know when it gets to that point,
Yeah.
that
Uh-huh.
I obviously I urge you to seek. There's so many things right now free, that are open for calls to therapists, calls
Exactly.
to
Yeah.
all kinds of things right now, because there is so much mental issues with just sort of like getting through this time. So there's so many of those places that you can talk to so many different people for free,
Exactly. Yeah.
right now. So I would say, obviously, go if it becomes to that point. But I think the actual up and down is normal, and
That's
it
natural.
should,
Yeah.
and it's okay, and it should you should allow yourself to be okay with that.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
my advice is that I also think that try doing something that you never would allow yourself to do before
Mm-hmm.
pandemic. Um, try something different that you just never would allow yourself, whether it's reading, whether it's meditation, whether it's writing, whether it's talking to more people, like whether it's connecting to more
Yeah.
people in terms of like virtually or whatever. But try doing something that you never would have allowed yourself prior to this, and see how that is, because at the end of this, it'll be amazing to see how the new habits that we have that we picked up, that are
Yeah.
good, that are, and how those last. It's very easy. This is a great time to try and let old bad habits go, because
Uh-huh.
we are forced to not be in our normal lives, living situations. Our normal life situation, if you
Yeah.
will. So I think it's a great way. It's a great time right now to try and stop those old bad habits and see how that works, to then
Exactly. Yeah.
discover some new habits that could be great for you, and that you could just keep past pandemic. I'm that part of it. That thing for me has been, it's wonderful. I'm really taking note of the things that I want to keep in my life,
Yeah.
how I've been feeling about in this pandemic world, post pandemic.
Because the whole world is essentially on pause, and we have so much time
Yeah,
to think about stuff, to try new things, get rid of old things like bad habits, and also
exactly.
just take it easy as well as getting stuff.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Yeah. Well, that was fantastic advice, and I think that just about does us for this episode.
Amazing. All right,
Yeah.
cool.
So a huge thank you to Mr. Michael Scott for volunteering his
Yes.
time and coming on as a guest.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. And I send a lot of I just want to send a lot of love and light and heart and laughter to people right now. I wish you all that.
Thank you.
And when you are feeling this notion of down, um, even if you think about the word joy, makes people smile. So, like you don't even have to think about something specifically that's joyful. You could
Yeah,
literally think of the word joy and it can change your mind. So I wish people joy. I'm sending to people, and hope that they will think about that.
that's fantastic. And I send the same to you. So same goes.
Thank you. Thank you.
And stay safe. So thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you all in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.